and wonderful Sunday morning to everybody. This will be recorded, so if you're hearing it and it's not Sunday, you'll say, "Hey, that's pretty cool. How'd he do that?" Yeah, so today I'm talking a little bit about uh, correlations between Eastern and Western thought. Uh, I'm reading about this guy named Nanak. Can you say that 3 times really fast? Nanak, Nanak, Nanak. But anyway, I'm reading about Nanak, and one of the things that Nanak said today is that the three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the three cannot see the one. Once God divided himself into the three, then each one of those three, unless they turn back and face God again, then they won't. They'll never know this union that one who is awakened will experience. When I say awakened, I mean one who's enlightened, one who's turned back towards God. Face the three first, because when you first turn back towards God, you face the three: Brahma, the creator; Vishnu, the sustainer; and Shiva, the destroyer. I know in the West we have the Holy Trinity too, but I'm trying to make sense of how this how that correlates with the Eastern Trinity. But the three, like Jesus, the Holy Ghost, and whatever other makes the Trinity, because God Himself is whole. Okay, God is this one essence, like light before it hits a prism. It's pure white light, and then a prism is in the three, like in a triangle. And once the light hits the prism, then it divides into the many, and that's how we're evolved into human beings. And the glory of being a human being is that we can turn in towards ourselves and face the three, and then dissolve the three into the one, and have the experience to know godliness, to know what God is, and that's the beauty of being a human. I don't know if the angels or if any other heavenly beings um, have that ability. From what I read about, like when Buddha became enlightened, it's said that Brahma, the creator, came down to earth and um, basically begged Buddha to share his knowledge, not only with him but with the world, so that the world could blossom and benefit from his experience. That's pretty cool, pretty interesting to think about, really. Excuse me. So, um, Brahma, the creator. So when God turned himself into Brahma, he's always into creation. And there's a story about Brahma that he loved his creation so much that he became obsessed with part of his creation, and he would chase whatever animal form he made. Like if he made a cow, then he became a bull, and he would chase the cow. And to the Western mind, that seems kind of a little perverted, but to the Eastern mind, it kind of makes sense that he's so in love with what he created that he wanted to experience that creation. But then it moves into Vishnu, the sustainer, and then Vishnu sends you on this journey through life where you experience maturity in several different levels, like physical maturity, emotional maturity, intellectual maturity, and spiritual maturity. And when you have gotten to that level where you become mature in all those four bodies, then you get to experience this turning in. Um, in your spiritual journey, as your spiritual body develops, you're really developing what we call up to the heart chakra. So each of the chakras below the heart coincides with the physical, being the first, the root chakra, the the sex the is the second, and that is the intellectual. Excuse me, not the intellectual, but the emotional, and then third is the intellectual, which is the solar plexus, and then the heart is the fourth. Um, And it's kind of beautiful, but it's also interesting how Nanak says that the three um, can never know the one as long as the three exist. And that means that I thought about this too. It's like Jesus cannot dissolve completely into God as long as he has this desire to exist. And I'm pretty sure that JC is still around and helping so many people in so many different ways. I know it's a Sunday morning, so we can talk about JC and how he's blessing the world, but he can't unless he turns into himself and turns inward. That's when Jesus will know godliness. And they say that Jesus is at the right hand side of God all the time. So with that in mind, um, it's just like the Holy Spirit. It can't dissolve it back into the one unless it turns into itself. And it said that they can't do that. That's what Nanak was saying in this book I was reading, that the three can't turn into themselves. They keep facing outward. That's their job. That's their purpose in this existence. And that's kind of interesting to think about. Um, I'll share a dream I had with you. Okay, so in 1998, I was so-called born again, twice born. Um, and this experience, this enlightenment, there's so many different names for it, but made me believe through reading in many books that when the enlightened one passes away, that he will just dissolve into existence, right? And you can feel this presence of the enlightened one everywhere. So like if you think about it, if you go out to the trees and you feel the essence, or you meditate under a tree, you feel the essence of that tree. Well, there's energies that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, that tree is soaked in the energies of different disciples type people, or people who are enlightened. Their energy gets absorbed into the living trees, and it's like a battery, and it stores like a memory too of the essence of the human that was enlightened. So I've heard. So this is a cool story. Buddha was enlightened under well, I guess what is called a fig tree, from what I understand. But it was a beautiful tree, and the tree became enlightened too, or it was already enlightened when Buddha became enlightened. But that energy that flowed into Buddha also flowed into that tree that he was under. Well, Buddhist, while Buddha was alive, they took very good care of that tree. And they felt as long as this tree existed, then Buddha's teachings will continue to, his essence will still be on this planet for as long as that tree's alive. Well, what happened was the tree was dying, so they cut off leafings of the tree and replanted it, and that grew into another tree. And this happened, I think, 2 or 3, 4 times by now. But that tree that Buddha was enlightened under is still around, and that's pretty cool to think about. That as long as a part of whatever was around, and there are trees here in America on the West Coast that have been around since Jesus's age. That they're thousands of year old trees. They're just these ancient, beautiful things that exist in our planet. And if you ever get a chance to go out to like the redwood forest or the sequoia forest, um, Oregon or California, both have very old forest, and it's just amazing to be around the essence of something that's been around that long. But the dream I was going to tell you all about was this: is that um, I have a condition where I stop breathing several times every night. And I know there's breathing devices that help you, fight off that stuff, but I chose not to do those things. I just felt like if God wants to take me, then then he can go ahead and take me, and I won't complain. I mean, I've seen and done more than 100 men in this one lifetime. The beauty that I've experienced, the bliss that I've experienced, can compare to no other person that I've ever known. Um, I think the only other person on this planet who I even thought about maybe wanting to be like would be like Kelly Slater, but in essence, that you know his love for surfing is so great, and it's done so much for him. But the love for surfing has done so much for me in a spiritual sense and a physical sense as well. But my soul is completely drenched in this bliss of life. But anyway, the dream. I keep telling you I'm gonna tell this dream. So yeah, I went to bed in Austin. Excuse me, in Dallas. It was in Dallas this dream happened, and um, I lay down to go to sleep, and I don't know if I stopped breathing and this was a dream, or if I mean, you know what I'm saying, is like if I dreamt this, then it was all just a dream, and it was just, you know, quite bizarre. Um, there's a certain consciousness that goes on when I dream. Like I know I'm dreaming, so I just enjoy the dream. And you can do that by uh, before you go to bed saying, hey, I will become aware in this dream, but I won't wake up. I'll become aware in this dream, but I won't wake up. And you say that over and over until you fall asleep. And after a couple of weeks, you'll start noticing that you'll be awake in your dream. So anyway, in this dream, this one particular dream up in Dallas, uh, I go into the dream and I'm transported into this place, this other dimension. And there's this like office building for some reason. It's like 4 or 5 story office building with a nice parking lot out in front, and a drive-in area for valet or whatever to come into the front area of this building. And there was this voice, and the voice was everywhere. It wasn't a person; it was just this voice, and the voice said to me that said, "Hey, Doug, this place is built for you. You it's made for you, and whatever you desire, whatever you want, you let us know and we'll give it to you right away." And with that voice saying that to me, of course I was much younger when this happened, but I said, okay, how about a Ferrari? And presto, just like that, I was given this beautiful red Ferrari. And anyway, so I took the Ferrari out into the rolling hills that were green and lush grass, and it wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was just nice cool air. And I'm driving through the countryside in my Ferrari, just, you know, saying, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I came into this town, and I parked the Ferrari outside of what looked like a surf shop. And I went into the surf shop and saw this attendant there, and this young man attending the shop. And I went up to him. I said, hey, nice surfboards. I said, are there any good waves here? And the guy looked at me, and at that moment, 4 angels came in from somewhere. I call them angels because you can't see their feet. Their feet are in clouds, and the clouds are lit. So they fly, but they don't have wings. But these 4 persons came in and pulled me out from the dream, and they said, this place is not meant for you. This place is you're not ready to go to this place yet. It's maybe it was a preview of what happens when you die in a certain sense. And then I at that moment, when the four angels pulled me out of the dream, I was awakened instantly, and I was gasping for breath, and I was like, "Whoa, that was a crazy dream." Um, in my dreams, they never get the waves right. That's one of the indicators that I know that I'm in a dream. Another indicator is that electronics don't work right in dreams. That's a real easy one to figure out real fast. If you're starting to work on your cell phone or something in your dream and the cell phone's not working right, that's because the dream world, the dimension that you're existing in, well, they haven't figured out electronics yet. They don't know. I mean, the intricacies. And I think the reason why waves don't feel right is because maybe I don't know enough about surfboards. I know quite a bit about construction of a surfboard, but I don't have that magical formula to sit down and shape a board and turn it into a magic surfboard. Not too many people do. I mean, you can count them on your hands and feet. People that can take a blank piece of foam and turn it into a superb surfboard. I mean, there are a lot of guys out there that can make a decent surfboard and it'll work, but it with the I guess with the help of computers and shaping machines, it's made it a lot easier for anybody to shape a really good board. Basically, I guess once the computer shapes it for you, you just sand it down and glass it up, and it's almost perfect every single time. I mean, that's the greatness of technology nowadays. But anyway, so this dream I had just made me think. It's like, okay, so I thought that when an enlightened person dies, that they um, dissolve into existence. And what I realized is that uh, Shiva, the destroyer, the keeper of what happens when you pass away, the destroyer of worlds, basically, is worshipped very highly in India. And for me to understand what that means is that um, I guess a lot of people are praying because they want the end of ends to come. They want to get out of the samsara, the wheel of life. They want to get out of this wheel of life because they believe that there's this suffering that exists throughout life. Um, and my 2 cents on that is that hold on just a second. My 2 cents on the suffering of life is that um, you should become a surfer, or a skydiver, or a great skateboarder. I mean, there are so many great things to do in this world that will excel you and help you realize the one beyond the three. When you when you go into this Zen state of mind, when you surf or skateboard or skydive or whatever you do, you experience this wholeness, this oneness with divineness. And with Shiva being the destroyer, um, they, they I guess it's believed that they can put an end to that. But how I feel as a surfer is that I don't really want it to end. Sure, there's suffering in life, and that's the same thing as holding a thorn, a rose by the thorns. You know, there can be pain in life and there can be suffering, but isn't the fragrance, isn't the beauty of living and being alive worth uh, experiencing that pain or having to go through whatever pain we have to go through, all the suffering? I mean, if everyone around us, everything you know, every person you've ever known or loved at one point will die. No one, not Alexander the Great, not anybody has ever um, conquered death. Um, Even Buddha had to pass away. Jesus passed away. Everybody passes away on the physical realm. Now, what happens after that? Maybe up to the three, or maybe it's up to the one. If you've traveled the journey and realized the three, then you can dive back into the one and dissolve into the one. So yeah, so what I felt was maybe it wasn't my time to die yet in that dream. If I truly did die, or I mean, it could have just been a dream. Who knows? But it was quite an interesting dream. I've had quite a few very interesting dreams, and I think we all have. I think if you guys are coming in live at all, or if you're catching any of this, that's uh, we're talking about Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and the whole Trimurti they call theirs, or the Trinity we call it. If you're just dialing in, this is recorded, and I'm gonna re-release it on YouTube and on Twitch too, so that you'll be able to get a chance to catch up and watch and understand the teaching um, that I'm bringing to you from Nanak, brought to me by Osho, but brought to me from Buddha. Um, we talk about many things on this show, and East meets West, West meets East. When you think about East and West, you can say that West is more looked outward, and the East looked inward. And that's the only division between East and West. There's no real division on the planet between what is East and what is West. You could be standing in China, and there's going to be a West. You could be standing in Russia, and there's going to be a East or a West. There's no certain point that divides East and the West. So the true division of East and West is just that the West that maybe thought God was outside and should be reached through external means, and then the East thought God was on the inside. The way to reach God was the inside. When in reality, both of them are right. So that doesn't make sense, but combined together, when East meets West and you dissolve the two into the one, um, the inward journey um, is like a direct conduit to godliness, because you're not facing outward and going into the world. And in the Western point of view, that God is outward, basically is that um, worldly view, or materialistically worldly view, will come to a point one day. God might give you everything you ever asked for. You never know. That could happen. There's all these doctors and philosophers that are talking about manifesting and obtaining riches and wealth because God wants you to have all these things. It's true in a certain sense, but it's false in another sense. I just talked to a little young lady on Facebook that said, "Hey, I don't understand what's going on with my spirituality. Everything was going great and fine, and then all of a sudden things stopped happening, and she didn't understand why." And she was very distraught and very distressed because she thought spirituality is going to be all flowers and roses and no thorns. But I reminded the young lady, I said, "Look, what kind of experience are you asking for? Sure, I mean, there may be riches and there may be great things and very beautiful materialistic things come into your life, and get you might get blessed with those things, but will that make you any different? Will that bring you any closer to God?" What it does to most people is most people realize that obtaining these things and having these things draws you closer to God. So eventually you drop your materialistic things and you dive into yourself. So the Western approach can help be a lead to turn you in. And when you get turned in, then you get turned inward to face the three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Um, so that's our talk on how East meets West. And I thought it was a pretty interesting talk. And I'd be glad to hear some of your thoughts and what you guys might have to say about uh, how everything works and how you feel about it too. When this show gets started, finally, when we start getting listeners, I hope that maybe you'll scroll back and be able to watch some of these earlier episodes and kind of gain the insight of where we're all at different levels in our spiritual search. Um, and I might be a little farther down the road than others, but there are others that are way farther down the road than I am. So I have always had someone or something to look forward or enjoy the teachings of so many people. I mean, there's yoga, there's Zen, there's Sufism, there's oh my God. If I as I look through the hundreds of books I've got on spirituality, there's so much out there that you can keep diving into and learning from. The journey is almost endless, and I think that's the beauty of true spirituality. Buddha called it the thousand petaled lotus. So when you become enlightened, when you become awakened, um, you're like a flower that continually blooms and blooms and blooms. Um, because you become like a sponge and you can just soak all the love in. And that love is the love that you take with you when you pass away. When Shiva finally comes and takes you away, the true test of life is how much of that love is in you. What can you give back to God as a gift of all these lives that you've lived? What can you give back to God? And I think that's kind of cool, man. Well, folks, thank you kindly for watching and taking the time to listen to these beautiful words. Much love and aloha to all you beautiful surfing friends of mine, and hope we catch lots of waves coming here in the near future. Um, we had 3 days of great waves uh, here in Galveston, and we're going to be going back up to Waco and getting some waves up at Waco for my birthday, so that'd be cool. And uh, it's kind of a nice thing to know that there's a place you can go where you're almost guaranteed a wave. The only reason you wouldn't be guaranteed the wave is if the pool broke down, or if there's thunder or lightning within 10 miles of the pool, then they shut it down too. So, but other than that, you can pretty much plan if you know the weather's going to be good and hopefully the pool's working. You're guaranteed to go up to Waco and get some good waves. Anyway, so I guess I'll say adios with that, and say thank you guys for joining me, and I look forward to hearing from you in the near future. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.